Joining us now is the Director of Publicity and Advocacy, Northern Elders Forum, Hakeem Ahmed. He will be speaking to us on renewed attempts to muzzle the media, the hitting of the polity by disputants to the outcome of the general election, and other national issues. Welcome to Newsday. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me.
Well, let's start with the recent fine that was imposed on Channels Television by the NBC. Some people have described it as an attempt by the incoming administration to gag the media. What's your take on that?
Well, my first instinctive take is that I don't think this is being imposed on, the fine is being imposed by the incoming administration. They don't have the powers to do that. There may be interests, or they may have some influences in the current administration, but I think it's the current administration that is exercising some powers, either through NBC or through another means, to impose fines. The most substantive issue here is that we're on a sliding scale. We are on a very dangerous slope. Media as a whole, mainstream media, social media, is in a free fall the way they say country is. Just before you came on the news, I saw Madam Kabir Yusuf speaking at the launching of the Ombudsman. And I think that's an excellent initiative. The Nigerian media needs to police itself. The freedom of expression is fundamental. The right to free speech is fundamental. But the duty of the state also to protect the citizens and the state are also fundamental. There is never a way in which you're going to resolve these issues entirely. But I think this tendency to just smack 5 million fines now, 5 million fines later, is not this way, is not the solution to the problem. Media has to go and look for news. They need opinions of people who are involved in what's going on, people who have views to express. Some of them may not be comfortable to the government, some of them may not be comfortable to politicians, but they have to say them. And we need to draw a fine line between what is acceptable speech and what is treasonable and libelous speech. This is very, very important. And there are enough laws in the country to guide everybody who is involved, either as a monitor or as a sanction, somebody applying sanction. We must know our jobs well. As it is now, politics has blurred the distinctions. So authorities tend to think we will hold the organization that provides a platform for a citizen to say whatever the citizen wants to say. But what about the citizen? The citizen has a responsibility to also respect the law. In the last few weeks, I have seen horrible, horrible things being said by spokespersons of political parties that ordinarily must be sanctioned and should be sanctioned. So I think that the ombudsman idea is good. I think that media organizations need to sit down now with all this very high tension and look at exactly how they conduct business. They must engage the public. Somebody somewhere is going to say something that somebody doesn't like. So there are no clear-cut solutions to this problem. But I think that government needs to recognize the fact that we're operating under very difficult circumstances, and citizens need to know that there are boundaries they can't cross. It doesn't matter what level of citizen you are. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what position you hold. You must respect the laws of the land.
Is it probably easier to scapegoat larger corporations or larger media outfits rather than pinning down individuals? Because just as you said, in the last couple of months, especially during the heat of the election cycle, there was seemingly treasonous utterances from all sides being thrown around, but these were individuals. And what we heard a lot of the time was that was their individual opinion and not that of the party. So is it easier to maybe clamp down on the speech of a larger group than tracking down individuals? And if so, why?
I think because the culprit is also the policeman. Some of the spokespersons who breach every law of decency and decorum and put the country in peril are speaking for those who should be sanctioning them. Spokespersons of the existing government have broken rules. Spokespersons of the opposition have broken rules. Big corporations like Arise and Channels and others have said things that shouldn't be said. And yes, you're right, it's relatively easier to go after the big fish. But you have to ask yourself, I know of only one incident, one, and I'm not going to mention his name because I don't think it even deserves to be mentioned here. Of one individual who speaks for a particular party who was invited by the Department of State Security for 2 or 3 days, and it was all over the place. Beyond that, I've had worse things said by others of the state of the country, about the elections, about security, about some people, the kind of things that you hear and that can actually trigger a crisis. And so, yes, the big ones, and it comes with the territory. You guys are big, Rise is big, Channels is big, AIT is big, so people see you. But what we need to do is to ask, what happens to the people who make these comments? Does the law actually just simply hold the medium responsible, or can people just go on TV because it is Channels or Rise or big media and say whatever they want to say? And I hope you're going to have a chance to look at even more murky waters when you go down below the conventional major media, because some of the things that you see on social media, in spite of the plethora of laws and regulations, of people just simply literally igniting the country on fire. It's amazing that we have survived the elections up to this stage where we are. The way people are going about and saying the same things and doing the things they're doing. The country has just come through a very challenging election. We are still in a very difficult situation. And if there is a law, and if there are people who are responsible for this law, it is time to apply them, irrespective of whether they are big television or small television or print media or electronic media. The survival of the country and the security of the country is very, very important. That's why I'm very happy that we, the media ourselves, are policing ourselves. That's great. I think that's one of the best things, one of the most responsible things that the media should do. And the government should take note of this ombudsman. If the media can police itself and do it effectively, then it takes the whole weight off the government, which is both a player in the field and also the referee. If you hear some of the things that government people say, you will really wonder whether they are actually, the government knows that they speak for them or not. It's not just opposition people who have spokespeople who say what they want to say. Government people are also guilty.
Well, and just as a follow-up to what you've said about the heated rhetorics and people saying all sorts on social media, ethnic tension, ethnic division, I'm just wondering, how do you think we can curb this divide and rule politics going forward? And considering the fact that the president-elect has called for unity for healing, can there actually be reconciliation without restitution?
I think it would be great if the president-elect doesn't just stop in making nice statements about reconciliation and healing. He should do that, because we do need reconciliation and healing. The country has been badly damaged coming through the last election. So soothing words, comforting words like reconciliation and healing is good. But he needs to be harder on his spokespeople. You cannot just simply say nice things and then allow your foot soldiers to go around and say whatever they want to say. And I'm not just limiting this comment to the president-elect. I'm applying it to all politicians who share, like every one of us here, the same responsibility to say only those things that are responsible, that are not going to jeopardize or threaten the security of the citizen or the state. So it's worse. If you know what goes on in social media and you want to maintain your health, mental health, it's better not to go there at all. What has been going on in the last 3-4 weeks between particularly two ethnic groups is frightening, it's scary, and it makes you wonder, how are we going to live together? Are we ever going to live as a country, having said all these horrible, horrible things about each other and to each other, freely, as if there is no law in this country? Social media is also regulated. And the people who allow Nigerians to destroy themselves are not even Nigerians. They are people who make huge amounts of money by providing us with social media platforms. Go ahead, destroy yourselves. Say whatever you want to say and live with the consequences. And these consequences, let me tell you, will not stop just simply because one politician has been sworn in or some governors have been sworn in. We would live with these consequences. And I'm worried. I've never seen an election that has generated so much bitterness, so much rancor, and so much, and operates in such lawless environment. You have to really wonder, do we have a government at all? Is the government interested in what is going on and what we say to each other and about each other? Are they worried about the fact that in Lagos, Igbo and Yoruba people are going to have to continue to coexist as they did for the last 50, 60, 100 years? Is Lagos ever going to be the same again? Are some parts of this country ever going to be the same? Because we're poisoning the environment, and we're continuing to poison the environment. And I don't see the people who should say, hold it. There have to be boundaries. Make an example of 1 or 2 people. Get evidence that someone somewhere has said something that is sufficiently chargeable in a court of law, and take them to court. If there's a platform, social media platform, that provides us with a weapon to destroy our country, then do something about it. It can be done. I remember a few years ago or a few months ago, this same government of President Buhari sanctioned one of the largest social media organizations in this country. Should we wait until the country is aflame or in the worst condition now before we do anything? I think this is wrong. I think the first port of call would be to say to President Buhari, do your job. The army of regulators we have, do your jobs. Don't just let loose the social media and allow people who want to set this country on fire do so. Millions of Nigerians voted a few weeks ago. We voted because we have confidence that we are likely to produce leaders. Some things went wrong. Some things went right. A lot of people are not happy about what's going on. But this is not the way to settle this. Not on social media, not on any media. And the media needs to be insulated and isolated from these fights.
And I just want to quickly harp on this social media bit that you were talking about, because back in the, I think, 2016 elections in the United States, it was well documented how the use of foreign social media elements infiltrated in order to create animosity or anger culture in which two sides would be warring with each other just from information that was disseminated onto social media in order to distract and, of course, divide and conquer and create division amongst the polity. And it worked to fantastic results in the U.S. In fact, there's lots of documentaries about it concerning Cambridge Analytica and the role that they played. Well, with knowing all of this, we would assume that somewhere in Nigeria, there's research being done about a lot of this hateful rhetoric and whether or not it comes from large groups of computers with IP addresses, whether it's a targeted situation or if it's just random individuals who are just using their data for no reason. There's also the fears of artificial intelligence. I'm sure you know the discussions that are being had in the news right now about deep fake being created with people's voices, which is something that has been disputed with that voice recording that came up between Cleric and the presidential candidate for the Labour Party. But to my question, we know that there was a letter written by the Broadcast Organization of Nigeria to the Minister of Culture and Information, Lai Mohammed. Well, they're towing a similar vein in saying that investigations need to be carried out thoroughly so that it's not a knee-jerk reaction. We're just sanctioning individuals who might or might not have been influenced by some pressure group. What is your opinion on this, and what the information minister can do within his powers in the next couple of months to make this playing field a little bit more level, since it's in his powers to do so?
Well, we have very strong institutional mechanisms that can investigate and establish whether there are attempts to pitch Nigerians against each other. Whether we're using those capacities or not, I don't know. The Minister of Communication said a few weeks ago that, I can't remember the figure, but hundreds of attempts were made to hack into the INEC server. And all those attempts were frustrated. That was gave me some comfort that at least we can do something right in this country. Where is NCC? Where is the National Communications Commission? Where is all these experts? Where is the Galaxy backbone? Where is the Ministry of Information? Where is the Ministry of Justice? Who is watching over what Nigerians see and hear about each other and say to each other? And why don't we see any action, any activity at all aimed at curbing some of these really dangerous rhetorics that are going on? In no country would tolerate what we are tolerating in this country against each other. And look, we're not insulting Americans or Ukrainians or British. We are actually undermining the foundations of national unity and national security. That's what we're doing. I mean, I shudder to think what would have happened if some other politicians have won this election. And I worry seriously about how we are going to learn to live together, having poisoned inter-community relationships. And who is doing that? And for what purpose? It just cannot be a spillover of this election. If there are people who think that the elections have provided them with a basis for subverting this country fundamentally, then we need to see this government do a lot more than it is doing. This is not the time to sit on our hands and say, it's not our business. Everything that happens in this country between now and May 29th this year, it stops at the back of President Buhari. He should get his people to do a lot more to protect citizens. Right now, the biggest danger we're facing is that Nigerians are being set up against each other by someone, by some groups of people, maybe Nigerian, or maybe it's quite possible it's just sheer indifference. People just don't care. This government just wants to go. They can't wait for May 29th, and therefore it doesn't matter what happens. If that is what is going on, then it's very disturbing. But we need to see some action.
Okay, Hakeem Ahmed, Director Publicity and Advocacy, Northern Elders Forum. Thank you so much for joining us on Newsday.